I, Bhumika Tarchandani, present my greetings to one and all present on the fourth and last day of our webinar series on the theme Circular Economy, a solution to achieve carbon neutrality, and welcome you all in this very stimulating and instructive exchange of ideas that we are going to witness today on the sub-theme, the role of governments in circular economy, organized by the NISAC Foundation. NISAC Foundation, which is based out in California with its head office in San Ramon, California, is a NPO focusing on energizing teams to motivated to do impactful work and create examples for others to follow while reducing human impact on other species we share the planet with. Our foundation supports, communicates, and mobilizes people to bring change in society, providing funds, campaigns, and resources to push for aggressive climate actions and high-level policies that accelerate sustainable development goals, including measures to address those disproportionately affected by deforestation and plantation expansion. Getting the global economy back on track in the wake of pandemic while still pursuing environmental and social objectives calls for extraordinary efforts on the part of governments throughout the globe. At this juncture, governments must take the lead in hastening the transition to a global economy, a paradigm change that will boost the economy and create new jobs while also promoting environmental sustainability and social justice. Today, governments need to refocus and avoid being rigidly rooted in outdated linear methods of the economy. Already, companies and various organizations are beginning to see the advantages of transitioning to a circular way of economy. While market obstacles and volunteers promises greater systematic change, these are important, but legislative incentives are also very crucial in order to achieve circular economy. So the governments must first enact supportive policies in order to facilitate the circular transformation. To further discuss about the topic, our guest today is Mr. Ivan Allegranti. He is an Italian research fellow and Ph.D. candidate in civil law at the School of Law of the University of Camerino. His research topics are related to the right to remain in your own homelands in lands triggered by natural hazards. He has also been short visiting researcher at the Center for Sustainable Development of the Tokyo University in Tokyo, and he has also worked on multiple research projects devoted to family law and energy law. Ivan has spoken at multiple international conferences and published numerous scientific articles in international publications. Ivan, the NISAC team with great enthusiasm welcomes you to this webinar. Now the virtual stage is all yours.
First of all, thank you to everyone. I'm really excited to join you here. Sorry for my voice, but I just got COVID because in Italy there's still COVID and it's going to be worse. Anyway, so my research, so what I'll bring you to the table is how the governments speak in terms of circular economy. So my focus today as a part of my studies is how governative bodies might help populations who are living in lands triggered by disasters, which in Italy there are a lot of places, and I will tell you a little bit later, can help populations to avoid the rising costs of energy. Because perhaps India is a happy place, but in Italy, because all the gas furniture is coming from Russia, and also Europe is dependent by 70% from the US, from Russia's material, gas, etc. Everything is concentrated on Russia's power. So I reflected also in light of the RED II directive and all the European politics and policies on how these have changed the perception that everyone now has on energy. Because I don't know how it is in India, but in Italy, it has been changed from big corporations like Enel to now consumers. So little people that create on their own in their house the energy they are using for themselves. But before arriving to that conclusion, so the scope of my speech is actually to make you understand how energy communities and the new concept of prosumerism, so prosumer, the consumer, pro, and umer, so the consumer that creates his own energy, are the future for the old European continent that has relied perhaps too much on other sources and on other political effects of, we have seen Russia, then we have Libya, because Italy, for example, is down with Africa, or with the US. So the auto creation and auto production of energy might be the solution. So a circular economy. But before, as I said, arriving at the why, let's speak about bills. The problem, the big problem of energy bills in Italy and in lands triggered by disasters. My topic, as you may know, I come from Camerino. Camerino is located in the Marche region, and the Marche region has faced between 1997 and today 4 major disasters. One earthquake in 1997, where everything was destroyed. It was built almost as it was in 2010. In 2016, 3 seismic events came. Then, after the seismic events of 2016-17, where most of the Marche region was completely destroyed, and which I'm currently studying, you have the COVID pandemic, and after that, you have the economic disaster, because what caused the Ukrainian war is the rising costs of all the prices, not only of energy, but for instance, also of building construction materials. So the Marche region is a place full of disaster. It's a region based in the mountain. People are very old. So what happened and what we are doing now in the Marche region is actually to convert, because the reconstruction is still not finished after 6 years. We are trying with the university to convince small local towns like Pieve Torina, Muccia, and others to create energy communities. But why? Because the big problem is the bills. When a disaster hits in Italy, usually the policy adopted by the government is the one of suspensions. That means that, for example, for a mortgage or for bills, if your house is destroyed, you will not pay the bills immediately for the destroyed house. But at the end, when the house will be rebuilt, at the end of the, when the house is rebuilt, then you will see and you have to pay all the preceding the bills that were issued from the destruction of the house till the reconstruction. So the problem is that with bills, the Marche region, and in terms of disaster, the Marche region and the Special Commissioner and the Italian Independent Authority for Energy, which is called, if you want, I can write it to you here in chat, ARERA. It's also in English, while the other institutional websites are not in English, sadly. They have decided that besides the suspension, all the taxes, including in the costs of the bills, which in Italy is about 46%, while in Germany, I have written an article about, is about 49%. For all the reconstruction process, so emergency period, will not be issued. So people who were lucky enough to don't have the house destroyed would have paid the bill rather than €100, including taxes, only 46, which is fair enough. But now that the emergency period is almost at the end, all the prices have gone at full price. So the problem is that houses are not completely rebuilt. Prices are high. People might live another crisis, which is their own personal economic crisis, in which they have to live just to pay the bills, because they say the biggest problem is perhaps with the mortgages. But besides this, because of this policy, which can be helpful if it's not a place in which this policy is applied, a place full of disasters. While I just forgot to mention that another part of the region, still the Marche region, this September got hit by floods, which almost killed 40 people. So same region, 2 natural disasters in 6 years. And also for this part of the region, it will be applied the same rules also for energy bills. So what to do? Well, as I said, the European Union especially, also in light of the Paris Agreement and all the international commitments that the EU has made in terms of neutrality, zero net emissions, just transition, etc., has revolutionized the energy market and has focused their attention, on the one hand, to discipline the consumer as the one who receives the bills. So how can we protect the consumer when he receives the bills? What are his duties? His protection systems. While on the other hand, it has concentrated, sorry. While on the other hand, it has concentrated its resources in creating this new figure of the prosumer. So the prosumer, as I said, also especially because of the RED II directive, which is Directive EU 2018-2001. So 2018-2001, if you want to go and then check on your own, has created this concept. And also it has been developed thanks to Directive 2019-944, which still speaks about prosumerism, but also on self-consumer. So this last directive will not have in its text directly the name prosumer, but self-consumer. But still, what is important to underline for you is that the center is the human. So only the human, with the help of the government, can be the main factor of a global challenge. So what are the critics of all these RED directive, etc.? Are mostly the bureaucracy, because the directive giving guidelines to create energy communities. Energy communities, as you might be aware, are those entities of private law which can be either founded by private individuals, enterprises, or foundations, create their own energy. They can be a municipality or for the whole municipality, a part, etc. So the problem is that the red directive has, yes, given general criteria to create all those mechanisms within the EU. But as Europe cannot regulate for everyone, member states have to create their own discipline. So the problem is that all the member states, including Italy, of course, have a very long and complicated bureaucracy, which has slowed down the creation of energy communities, especially those of little consumers like people in rural areas, because to create an energy community, you need to have a lot of money, expertise, and a place. So what are the lessons learned, and which have been then taken from by the next generation EU recovery plan, are to be more simple, more efficient, because you can give a right, but if you don't make this right be efficient, it's not a right. So the next generation EU has imposed to member states, in light also of their respective amount of money, to think as much as they could into simplifying the possibility for in their own country to join energy communities. So what happened to Italy? To Italy, they are just approving the final stages from the next generation EU in order to create a more important network of energy communities. Because for now, Italy is one of the leading cases of energy communities in Europe. And what about the Marche region? So the problem with the Marche region is they're small, they're in the mountains, there are disasters. So it's difficult to create an energy community there. But perhaps, and this might be also considered circular economy, new funds, which are really, really interesting, also in terms of amount of contribution, have been just issued by the Special Extraordinary Commissioner for their construction, Commissario Straordinario della Ricostruzione. The scope of these funds is to allow all those little municipalities that are located in the market, up in the mountain, 1,000, 2,000 meters, to be fully powered by energy communities. And we have, luckily for now, one leading case, which has been reported by Legambiente. Legambiente is the most important foundation in Italy for environment. If you want to contact, we can speak. Is the one in Feltria. What are doing most of those little cities in Italy, Feltria and others, either in Sicily or in South Tyrol or near Milan? It's not a private individual that creates its own energy community, but it's the municipality that says, I'll create the energy community for the whole city, which is about 2,000, 3,000 inhabitants. And the saving they have, because they perhaps install solar panels or wind shields or wind turbines, or they apply new type of paints that allow to decrease the consumption. So in terms of economic advantage is about 40%. So if we allow and if we create more policies that everyone can understand, the lawyer or the housekeeper or the elderly, we can, through the government, create an economy where everyone is part of it, thus allowing everyone to evolve in a greener and safer way. Thank you. I have finished my.
Thank you, Ivan, for your insights. Now we would request our audience to participate and share their thoughts or any questions if they have, to make this session more interactive. It would be uh, very appreciable if the
I hope
audience
it
would
was
participate.
clear as well as interesting.
Yes, yes, it was definitely was, Ivan. Thank you for your insights. You can, from the audience can type their questions in the chat, or they can also directly unmute themselves and ask the questions. We will be waiting
I do
for
not
a
hide
minute
that.
or two for the questions, and if there are not any, we can proceed.
Okay, no, perfect. If you have questions that you might want to do after, I'll write here in my email. You can send it to me personally.
Sorry to interrupt, Ivan. There is a question for you in our chat box. Uh, should I read it for you?
Sophia asks,
Yeah, by
what
Sophia.
about private sector? How can we convince them being a key stakeholder to invest more in project like circular energy? Well, it depends. What do you think about who is for you private sector? Because private sector can be Kuwait, can be Enel, can be those major corporations, or the household. So can you please tell me more, what do you define with private sector for your question? And then I can try to answer.
Ivan, we have a reply from Sophia.
Allora, for Sophia, private sector are power generation organization that are emitting higher CO2 emissions, like Africa, like in South Africa, ESCOM. Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. For example, Enel, Eni, Sorgenia. There are a lot of those major corporations doing like this. Why? Because in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and that's also might be appointed as one of the factors that generated the crisis of the bills, because now, as I said, with the war in Ukraine, all the bills have skyrocketed. But why? Because in 2014, the EU has stated the free market of energy. So everyone, also me, could provide an energy service. So this has created in Europe a lot of players of energy because it's a very lucrative sector. And now all those players that were born and are still on the rise in terms of GDPI of Italy, in terms of how many energy players are in Italy, they are doing, they are promoting, but not investing directly in energy communities. Why they cannot invest in energy communities so much? Because then they will not provide the service, which is more lucrative, of the energy given by them. Because the problem is that with the energy community, the private, so the household creates its energy for them. They create, they produce, they consume. While the ESCOM, Enel, blah, 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 they give directly. So the consumer has no power at all in the energy market and in the creation of energy. So it's how can you say no to one of your biggest markets for a big corporation like Enel? For what? Instead, to join energy communities, no one will then pay for you full price. Is that what you're asking for? Yeah, thank you. So you have to think sadly, what I've noted, but that's not only with energy, it's with life. It's everything about the money. So you have to have an image that is sustainable and blah, 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 inclusive, diversive, etc. But you have also to be very careful on the money. For example, for energy, ESCOM, who imports or puts energy in all the houses, cannot say, oh, I'll help you to create your own energy community. Because then when the energy community is created, ESCOM has lost that client. But what they're doing, they might install solar panels or give consultancy to major enterprises. So that's what is done concretely.
Are there any more questions from our audience?
Yes, there is one from Hassan. Ciao Hassan from Italy, even from Italy, project officer from district for open okay. Okay, Sierra Leone, perfetto. Who loves Sierra Leone? Thank you, yes. Can you, Hassan, write me an email. Because the future now is Africa. Because now everyone is concentrated on energy crisis in Europe, in the US, northern part of the world. But what about Africa? So thank you for sharing your contact, Hassan. I don't think there are other questions. Ah, no, see, it is easier for Falguni. Is it easier for developing economies to formulate policies for circular economy as compared to developed nations? No. Well, personally, it depends on everything on who the ruler is. It's who is at the power, who can be an innovative, creative, genius mind, or it can be the classic mind that just want the nation to go, have no crisis. So I don't want to say, oh yes, developing countries have more ideas on circular economy. It depends. It depends. For me, on who has the capacity to guide the policy.
Thank you for your answer, Falguni. For your answer, Ivan. I hope, Falguni, that satisfies your question. Now, if we don't have any other questions from the audience, we would like to proceed further. Okay, so in the next round, we have firstly, I would like to thank Ivan on the behalf of NISAC Foundation. We sincerely express our gratitude towards Ivan for sharing his expertise and journey on the path of circular economy and whatever he has genuinely faced or experienced in his home country with us. He we took note of your experiences with great interest, and I hope audience also gained something from this webinar. Now we have planned a small
Thank you
quiz
for everyone.
for our.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Ivan. Now we have a small quiz prepared for our audience. We would be sharing link of the quiz in the chat box. So please participate in the quiz, and we would be appreciate your participation. Till our audience is till our audience is filling the quiz form, I'd like to wrap up the session and also our webinar. Now that we have come to the end of the first webinar series organized by the NISAC Foundation on the theme of circular economy, a solution to achieve carbon neutrality. In this webinar, we got to listen to eminent personalities in diverse fields sharing the same goal of sustainable development, who shared their views on emerging opportunities in the realm of circular economy. I hope the audience surely has gained a lot of insights on the themes. We would also like to thank our audience for making it an enriching webinar, and we look forward to continuing beyond this event, the very stimulating and interactive exchange of ideas that we had today and in the previous sessions.